Find a quiet space and let the rhythm of your breathing become the only clock you need. Allow the tension in your shoulders to melt away, like morning mist burning off under a rising sun. Let go of the sharp edges of the day, the lists, the schedules, the digital glow. In their place, invite a gentle warmth to fill you, a warmth that feels ancient and golden. Imagine the air around you growing thick with the scent of sandalwood incense, earthy petrichor, and the distant perfume of jasmine blossoms. The hum of the modern world fades, replaced by the soft chime of a temple bell and the low drone of a tambura. You are not just imagining this, you are remembering it. Let this feeling guide you as your awareness drifts like a lotus leaf on a sacred river. Back, back, back through the currents of time to a place where the earth itself holds the stories. You are here now. The sun, a disk of molten copper, has just begun to climb above the horizon, painting the sky in hues of saffron and rose. The air that fills your lungs is cool and damp with the promise of the day. You rise from your simple rope-woven cot, the packed earth floor cool beneath your bare feet. Your home is a humble dwelling of mud and thatch, but it is sturdy and filled with the familiar smells of hearth smoke and drying herbs. Outside, your village is stirring to life. You hear the rhythmic clatter of a wooden loom from your neighbor's home, the gentle lowing of a zebu being led to pasture, and the distant, joyful shouts of children chasing each other towards the riverbank. This is your world, a small but vibrant piece of the vast tapestry of the Mauryan Empire. You make your way to the great river, the lifeblood of your land. The water is a placid, shimmering expanse in the morning light, and you wade in to your knees, feeling the divine current pull gently at you. Cupping water in your hands, you offer a silent prayer of gratitude to the dawn, to the river goddess, and to the ancestors who walked this very bank. A profound sense of peace settles over you, a feeling of being exactly where you are meant to be. Returning to your workshop, a space open to the morning air, your purpose for the day awaits. Piles of rich, dark clay, dug from the riverbed and prepared with practiced hands, sit expectantly. You take a large mound and place it onto the center of your wheel. Your foot begins to pump the kick wheel, a steady, hypnotic rhythm that you've known since you were a child. The wheel begins to spin, a low whirring sound that is the song of your craft. You wet your hands and touch the formless lump, and then the magic begins. Under your steady, knowing palms, the clay responds. It is a conversation older than words. You feel the earth's history in its texture, its coolness, its potential. With gentle pressure, you center the mass, feeling it find its perfect balance. Then you press your thumbs into the heart of the spinning clay, and the walls begin to rise. They climb upward, a graceful cylinder of possibility. Your fingers, stained with the memory of 1,000 pots before this one, shape the belly, curve the shoulder, and flare the lip. You are not just making a vessel for water or grain, you are shaping a piece of the earth to serve life. You are a conduit, and the form that emerges feels both created by you and discovered by you, as if it was waiting inside the clay all along. With a final, loving pass of a damp cloth, you smooth the lip of the pot. It is done. Simple, strong, and honest, a reflection of the earth it came from. You take a length of twine, pull it taut, and slice the vessel cleanly from the base of the wheel. Lifting it with a reverence reserved for new life, you place it carefully on a wooden plank in a sliver of sun, where it will join its brethren in their slow, patient transformation from wet clay to hardened terracotta. The sun has climbed higher now, its heat pressing down on the thatched roof of your workshop. You wipe the sweat from your brow with the back of a clay-streaked hand and contemplate your next task. Perhaps a set of shallow bowls, or the large storage jar your wife, Priya, requested. But before you can scoop another mound of clay, a shadow falls over your workspace. A man stands at the entrance, his form silhouetted against the bright morning. He is not from your neighborhood. His dhoti is of a finer weave than you are used to seeing, and a simple but elegant gold ring adorns one ear. He clears his throat, his voice polite and measured. Are you the potter whose work is known for its strength and balance? You nod slowly, rising from your haunches, your curiosity piqued. I am, you reply, your voice raspy from a morning of silent concentration. The man steps forward, his eyes scanning the rows of drying pots with an appraising look. My name is Varan, he says. I am the chief steward for the merchant Kashinoth. His caravans travel far, beyond the western mountains, to the lands of the Yavanas. He has heard of your skill. He pauses, letting the weight of his master's name settle in the quiet air. You have heard the name. Kashinoth is a man of immense wealth, his name whispered with a mixture of awe and envy at the village market. Varan reaches into a small pouch at his waist and produces not a pot, but a small, carved wooden vial, no bigger than your thumb. He hands it to you. The wood is dark, foreign, and smells faintly of a sweet, floral spice you cannot name. My master requires a special commission, Varan continues, his gaze intense. He needs vessels to carry precious perfumes and ointments. They must be small, like this, but of clay. They must be light, yet strong enough to survive 1,000 jolts on the back of a camel. And they must have lids that fit so perfectly that not a single drop of their costly contents is lost. This is a challenge unlike any you have faced. Your hands are accustomed to shaping the generous curves of water jugs and the sturdy walls of grain jars. The delicate, precise work Varan describes is the realm of city artisans who work for nobles, not a village potter like you. You run a thumb over the smooth wood of the vial, feeling the immensity of the task. The payment will be substantial, Varan adds, as if reading your thoughts. He opens his pouch again and lets 3 silver coins fall into your palm. They are heavy, stamped with the Mauryan emblem. It is more than you typically earn in a full month. The silver feels cold against your warm, clay-stained skin. It is the weight of opportunity, but also the weight of expectation. You look from the coins to the rows of honest, humble pots drying in the sun. Then you look at your own hands, which know the language of this river clay better than your own tongue. A new fire sparks within you. This is not just about money. It is a test of your craft, a chance to send a piece of your earth, shaped by your own hands, to the very edge of the known world. You meet Varan's gaze, your hesitation replaced by a quiet resolve. I will do it, you say. A rare smile touches the steward's lips. Excellent. I will return in 1 moon cycle to see your progress. With a nod, he turns and is gone, leaving you alone with the scent of a foreign spice, the weight of silver in your hand, and a new electrifying purpose humming in the warm air of your workshop. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of saffron and rose, but you barely notice. Varan is a ghost, the dust of his departure long settled, yet his presence lingers in the alien scent of the wooden vial and the cold, unyielding weight of the silver in your hand. You carefully place the coins inside a small earthenware jar where you keep your few valuables, hiding them beneath a layer of dried lentils. Their weight is gone from your palm, but not from your mind. The challenge Varan left you with feels vast, a distant mountain range you must now cross. The night is quiet, save for the chirp of crickets. Sleep does not come easily. You lie on your pallet, the smooth, dark wood of the sample vial cool against your cheek. You trace its perfect form, its impossibly snug lid. How can earth and fire be commanded to achieve such precision? The next morning, you are at your wheel before the sun has fully risen. You take a lump of your usual clay, the familiar gritty friend that has helped you shape countless water jugs. You center it, your hands moving with practiced ease. But when you try to form the small, delicate shape of the vial, your clay rebels. It is too coarse. The tiny vessel sags, its walls thick and clumsy. With a grunt of frustration, you slice it from the wheel and crush the failed attempt in your fist. The river gives you good, strong clay, but it is a language of rustic strength, not refined elegance. You need a new dialect. You spend the next days not at your wheel, but at the river's edge. You remember a story your grandfather told of how the royal potters of Pataliputra coaxed the finest silk from common earth. You build a series of shallow clay basins, one leading to the next. Into the first, you mix buckets of clay and water into a thick slurry. You let it sit, allowing the heaviest sand and stone to sink. Then you carefully ladle the thinner, cloudy water into the next basin and the next, each time leaving more grit and imperfection behind. It is slow, arduous work under the relentless sun. Your back aches and your muscles burn, but with each passing day, the clay deposited in the final basin grows smoother, finer, a silken paste the color of cream. Finally, you have enough. You carry the precious, refined clay back to your workshop. On the wheel, it feels entirely new. It is sensitive, yielding, responding to the slightest pressure of your fingers. It is also unforgiving. Your first dozen attempts are disastrous. Walls too thin collapse into a muddy mess. Bases are too heavy, throwing the delicate forms off balance. A small mountain of gray failures grows beside you. You focus on the rhythm, the gentle hum of the wheel, the whisper of wet clay sliding through your hands. Slowly, you begin to understand its nature. You learn to breathe with the turning, to coax rather than command. Small, elegant forms, no bigger than your thumb, begin to rise from the spinning mound. But the lids remain an unsolvable riddle. You throw them separately, measuring with a pair of bamboo calipers, but the subtle magic of shrinkage means they never match after drying. One day, weary and disheartened, you watch a weaver working her loom nearby, creating a single, complex pattern from many threads. An idea sparks. You return to the wheel and throw a vial, but instead of finishing the rim, you leave a thick, wide collar of clay at the top. Then, with a delicate touch and a sharp wooden tool, you begin to cut into that collar while the wheel still turns, shaping the lid from the very same clay as the vessel it will crown. You hollow it, shape its handle, and undercut it until, with a final, precise movement, you lift it free. You hold your breath and lower it back onto the pot. It settles into the rim with a soft whisper, a perfect, seamless fit. It is still just wet, gray clay. The trial of the kiln is yet to come. But as you hold the fragile success in your hands, watching the moon begin its journey to fullness in the evening sky, you know you have found the way. The days that follow are a lesson in patience. The moon waxes in the sky, and your new creations shed their moisture in the cool, still air of your workshop. You place the delicate vials and their lids on a wooden plank in the deepest shade, turning them each dawn and dusk. You watch as the dark, pliant gray slowly lightens to a pale, chalky white. They become ghostly, impossibly fragile. A careless touch, a sudden draft, could shatter them into dust. You guard them like a mother guards her newborns, your heart catching in your throat whenever a child runs too close to your hut. When the moon hangs full and luminous, a perfect silver coin in the indigo sky, you know it is time. The kiln, a deep pit lined with bricks of fired clay, has been waiting. You spend a full day preparing it, first clearing out the ash from the last firing, then carefully stacking the fuel. bundles of dry acacia wood at the bottom, then a thick layer of rice husks and hard cakes of dried dung. The air fills with the dusty, earthy scent of potential energy. Placing the pots is a sacred geometry. The larger water jugs and cooking pots go in first, forming a stable base. Then, with the care of a priest arranging offerings, you place your small vials. Each one is nested within a larger, coarser bowl, a protective shell against the direct lick of the flame. You work until your back screams, every vessel a silent prayer sent into the earth's embrace. You seal the kiln's opening with a temporary wall of bricks and mud, leaving a small stokehole at the bottom and a vent at the top. At twilight, you offer a handful of grain to Agni, the fire god, and touch a flaming torch to the kindling. For the first few hours, the fire is small and smoky, a gentle heat to dry out the last of the water smoke from the ware. Then you begin to feed the blaze. The night becomes a blur of heat and focus. The kiln's soft sigh grows into a hungry roar. You feed it wood, judging the temperature by the color glowing through the vent hole, from a dull cherry red to a bright shimmering orange, then to a blinding yellow-white. The air around you vibrates with power, the mud brick walls of the kiln seeming to breathe with the inferno within. You are not a potter anymore. You are an alchemist, commanding the very elements. After what feels like an eternity, when the glow is at its peak, you cease. You seal the stokehole and the vent completely, trapping the heat inside. And then the hardest part begins, the wait. For 2 full days, the kiln is a silent, cooling womb. You can do nothing but eat, sleep fitfully, and imagine the transformations or the tragedies taking place within. On the morning of the 3rd day, the bricks are cool enough to touch. With trembling hands, you pry them loose. The air that wafts out is warm and smells of baked earth and victory. Peering into the darkness, you see them. The shapes are familiar, but they are changed. Reaching in, you retrieve the first vial. It is no longer a fragile ghost, but a thing of permanence. The clay has been transformed into a warm reddish terracotta, hard as stone. It sings with a clear, high note when you tap it with a fingernail. You lift its tiny lid and set it in place. It settles with a soft, satisfying clink, a perfect fit. One by one, you pull them from the ashes. A few are lost, a hairline crack from a cooling draft, a lid warped by an errant flame. But most have survived the ordeal. They are beautiful. You line them up in the morning sun, a small army of successes born from mud, water, and fire. The satisfaction of the firing warms you for the rest of the day, a deeper heat than any kiln could produce. But admiration doesn't fill a grain sack. The vials have a purpose, a destination. Before the sun has fully risen the next morning, you are carefully packing your creations. You line a sturdy wicker basket with soft rice straw, wrapping each vial and its perfectly matched lid in scraps of old cotton cloth. Each small bundle is a prayer against the jolts and stumbles of the road. You nestle them together, a silent terracotta family ready for their journey. With the basket settled securely on your hip, you join the stream of people flowing from your village toward the town. The path is a ribbon of beaten earth, already stirring with dust under the feet of farmers, herders, and other craftspeople. The air is cool and smells of dew on broad-leafed plants and the smoke from morning cook fires. You listen to the chatter around you, gossip about the monsoon, arguments over the price of millet, a mother humming a lullaby to a child on her back. You are a part of this current, this river of daily life flowing towards the confluence of the market. The town rises to meet you, its mud brick walls giving way to a chaotic, vibrant heart. The market is an assault on the senses, a joyous riot of life. The air is thick with 1,000 competing scents. The sharp tang of ginger and turmeric, the sweet perfume of jasmine garlands, the earthy smell of livestock, and the savory aroma of sizzling flatbreads. The sounds are a symphony of commerce, merchants shouting their wares, the rhythmic clang of a coppersmith's hammer, the high-pitched melody of a flute, and the lowing of cattle. You navigate the throng, your hand held protectively over your basket. Your destination is a stall tucked between a seller of brilliant silk saris and a man hawking gleaming bronze bowls. Here, under a simple canvas awning, sits Bhadra. She is a woman whose age is impossible to guess, with eyes as sharp and dark as obsidian chips, and slender fingers stained yellow and brown from the spices and scents she trades. She looks up as you approach, her gaze immediately falling to the basket you carry. She says nothing, simply gesturing with her chin for you to present your work. Your heart beats a little faster. You unwrap the first vial. You place it and its lid into her waiting palm. She doesn't look at it, not at first. Instead, she closes her eyes and feels its weight, the smoothness of its surface, the clean line of its rim. She runs a thumb over the spot where the clay was burnished. Then she lifts the lid and sets it back in place. You hold your breath, listening for the sound. It comes, a soft, crisp chink of perfect union. A slow smile spreads across Bhadra's face. "The fire spirit was kind to you," she says, her voice like dry leaves rustling. She examines the rest, nodding in approval. They are exactly what she needs for her precious attars and fragrant oils. The transaction is swift and fair. She doesn't haggle. She respects the work. Into your hands, she places not just a small pile of silver coins, but also a tightly wrapped parcel of salt from a distant coast and a chunk of dark, sweet jaggery. "These are for the best work I have seen this season," she declares. "Bring me more, larger ones for sandalwood oil. Can you make them?" You nod, the weight of the silver in your palm feeling as real and as satisfying as the finished clay. Standing there amidst the market's swirling chaos, you are no longer just a potter. You are a creator, a merchant, a vital thread in the great tapestry of this world. The day is yours, the market is yours, and a future of fire and clay awaits your touch. The silver coins feel cool and heavy in your palm, a stark contrast to the familiar warmth of fired clay. Bhadra has already turned her attention to another, but you remain rooted to the spot for a moment, letting the symphony of the market wash over you. Before, it was a cacophony you had to navigate, a loud and bustling obstacle. Now you hear the music in it. The rhythmic clang of the coppersmith's hammer is a percussive beat. The melodic calls of the fruit vendors are the vocals. The rustle of silk is the gentle sweep of the strings. You are a part of this orchestra, a newly recognized musician who has just played their first perfect note. Your small success has changed the world, or at least how you see it. You tuck the coins, the salt, and the jaggery securely into your satchel and step away from Bhadra's stall, moving not with the timid urgency of a seller, but with the quiet confidence of a peer. You walk deeper into the warren of stalls. You pause before the silk merchant, the one whose brilliance you had averted your eyes from earlier. Now you look. You see the deep indigo, rich as a moonless night, and a saffron yellow so bright it seems to hold the sun itself. You imagine a vial so perfectly crafted, holding a precious oil meant to perfume such a fabric. Your gaze drifts to the bronze worker, his muscles gleaming with sweat as he hammers a sheet of metal into a graceful bowl. You no longer see just a man at work. You see a fellow artisan wrestling with his medium, using fire and force to shape beauty from raw material. You see a reflection of your own hands, your own kiln, your own heart. A new thought takes root in your mind, potent and thrilling. This world of fine goods is not just a world you serve, it is a world you belong to. Near a stall selling steaming cups of spiced tea, you catch a fragment of conversation between two camel drivers. Their voices are low, conspiratorial. This world of fine goods is not just a world you serve, it is a world you belong to. The last monsoon washed it down from the hills, one says, wiping his beard. The bend in the river just past the old banyan tree. Clay that burns the color of a bride's sari. Your breath catches in your throat. Red clay. The idea ignites your imagination. Sandalwood oil, with its deep, woody fragrance, deserved a vessel that was just as rich and warm. A container not of plain, humble terracotta, but of a deep, passionate crimson. You know the place they speak of. It is a half-day's walk, and the riverbanks can be treacherous and slick, but the possibility is too intoxicating to ignore. The commission from Badra for larger vials suddenly transforms from a simple task into an artistic challenge. The future of fire and clay she spoke of is no longer an abstract concept. It has a color. It is the color of red earth. Your decision is made. The market, with its endless temptations, fades into the background. Your purpose is singular and sharp. You make one final stop, not for silk or spice, but for a sturdy, newly woven jute sack, larger than your old one. The purchase is practical, definitive. It is a commitment. As you leave the city's noisy heart behind, the sun beginning its slow descent, the weight in your satchel feels different. It is no longer just the profit from a day's work. It is the seed of a grander creation. The road home is now just a path to a new beginning, leading you toward the river and its secret treasure. The familiar path that leads to your village feels alien under the fading light. The long shadows of sal trees stretch across the packed earth like grasping fingers, and the chirps of evening insects replace the city's clamor. The new jute sack, empty and light, bumps against your hip with each step, a hollow vessel waiting to be filled with purpose. Your mind is not on the comfort of your home or the embers of your hearth, but on the murmur of the river, a sound that grows from a whisper to a steady hum as you veer from the main road onto a less traveled trail. You reach the riverbank as the last sliver of the sun disappears, leaving the world bathed in the soft silver light of a rising moon. The air cools instantly, heavy with the scent of wet stone and decaying leaves. There it is, just as the camel drivers described, a colossal banyan tree. Its canopy a dark cloud against the starry sky, its aerial roots descending like a stony waterfall to grip the earth. It stands as an ancient guardian over the bend in the river, its presence both intimidating and reassuring. You are in the right place. The ground beneath your sandals is treacherous. Slick, dark mud, smoothed by the water's flow, threatens to steal your footing with every step. You move slowly, one hand braced against the rough bark of the trees that cling to the bank. The moonlight reflects off the water's surface, a shimmering, deceptive path that hides the true depth and current. Your heart beats a steady rhythm of caution and excitement. You scan the bank, your eyes searching for any break in the monotonous brown and gray tones of the ordinary earth. Just as a sliver of doubt begins to cool your resolve, you see it. Tucked beneath a gnarled tangle of exposed roots, where the current has carved away a deeper curve into the bank, is a patch of earth that seems to drink the moonlight and glow from within. It is not the dull brown of mud or the pale tan of silt. It is a deep, rich, impossible red. The color of lifeblood, of a marigold at dusk, of a bride's auspicious sari. You scramble closer, your breath held tight in your chest. You reach out and touch the surface. It is cool, dense, and unimaginably smooth, like firm butter. You drop to your knees, forgetting the dampness that seeps into your dhoti. You dig your fingers into the vein of clay. The sensation is sublime, a direct connection to the raw, creative power of the earth. You scoop out a handful and hold it up. In the moonlight, it is perfect. You open your new sack and begin the real work, scooping and packing, your hands and arms quickly becoming caked in the glorious crimson. The sack grows heavy, its weight a satisfying ache in your shoulders. Each handful is a promise, a future vial, a vessel worthy of the most fragrant oils. When the sack is full, you heave it onto your back. The weight is immense, but you feel buoyant, energized. You have not just found clay, you have unearthed a secret, a piece of the earth's hidden heart, and you carry it home to give it shape and fire. The return journey is a trial by shadow and weight. The sack, a living thing on your back, seems to grow heavier with each step, its crimson heart pressing against your spine. You retrace your path, but the landscape feels altered, more menacing now that your focus is on preservation rather than discovery. The gnarled roots that guided you now seem to reach for your ankles, and the slick mud is a hungry mouth eager to pull you down. Your breath comes in ragged plumes, visible for a moment in the cool night air. The moon, your silent accomplice, begins its slow descent, stretching the shadows long and thin across the path. You lean into the weight, your muscles screaming in protest, but your spirit is a steady flame. This is the price of creation, the toll paid to the earth for its secrets. Finally, you leave the river's hushed murmur behind, and the ground firms beneath your sandals. The air changes, carrying the familiar scents of your village. Cool ash from dormant cooking fires, the sweet smell of sleeping jasmine, the dusty warmth of penned goats. A wave of relief, so profound it almost buckles your knees, washes over you. Your steps quicken, drawn toward the faint, welcoming glow of a single oil lamp you left burning. Your workshop is a sanctuary. A small, earthen-walled room attached to your dwelling, it smells of dry dust, old wood, and the ghost of 1,000 firings. The potter's wheel stands silent in the center, a patient god awaiting its offering. You slide the heavy sack from your shoulders, letting it fall to the hard-packed floor with a satisfying thud. For a moment, you simply stand, rolling your aching shoulders and breathing in the peace of this space. This is your domain, the place where mud and inspiration become one. With renewed purpose, you untie the sack and carefully pour the magnificent clay onto a large, smooth stone slab worn concave from years of use. It forms a deep red mound, a stark and beautiful contrast to the gray stone. You dip your hands into a water bowl and approach the pile. The real alchemy begins now. You press your palms into the clay, and the work of kneading commences. It is a dance of pressure and release, of folding and turning. You work methodically, your body remembering a rhythm older than thought. Your task is to drive out every pocket of air, every imperfection. You feel for the tiny grits of sand, the small threads of roots, and patiently pick them out. The clay resists, then yields, slowly becoming a single, homogeneous being under your hands. It is no longer just river mud. It is becoming your medium, imbued with your strength and intention. After what feels like an eternity, you form it into a large, perfect sphere. It sits on the stone, gleaming in the lamplight, its surface smooth and flawless. It holds no shape yet, but you can feel all the possibilities sleeping within it. The elegant curve of a vial, the generous belly of a water pot, the delicate lip of a cup. The night's toil is over. The true work is about to begin. Sleep is a distant shore you have no desire to reach. The energy of creation hums in your veins, a current more potent than any weariness. You wipe your brow with the back of a clay-dusted forearm and move toward the wheel. Heaving the great sphere of clay, you center it on the flat wooden wheelhead. A splash of water, a firm, resounding slap to seat it, and it is done. You settle onto your low stool, the wood worn smooth and familiar against your thighs. You press your foot against the lower stone, giving it a powerful kick, then another. The wheel begins to spin, slowly at first, then gaining a steady, hypnotic momentum. The world outside, this rhythmic whirring, fades to a blur. The chirping of crickets, the distant howl of a jackal, they all dissolve into the singular sound of the spinning wood. There is only you, the wheel, and the clay. Centering the mass is the first and most crucial battle. You wet your hands and embrace the spinning mound. It fights you, a stubborn, lopsided wobble that shudders through your arms and threatens to throw the whole thing off balance. Your muscles tense, you lean in, using the weight of your body, your elbows braced against your knees, your hands a firm, unwavering cage. You feel the clay's wild, chaotic energy, its desire to fly apart into 1,000 pieces. You are its anchor, its center. Slowly, patiently, you feel the resistance lessen. The shuddering subsides, the vibrations smooth out, until the mound spins true, a perfect, centered cone rising between your palms. It is a moment of pure harmony, a silent agreement between you and the earth. With the clay now an extension of your will, you press both thumbs into the very center of the spinning peak. The walls begin to rise around them. It is a breathtaking act of transformation, turning a solid mass into a hollow vessel, giving emptiness a form. You feel the clay breathing, expanding, its very molecules aligning to your touch. Your mind is set on the khatam, the large, round-bellied water pot for the headman's daughter's wedding ceremony. It must be perfect, strong enough for daily use, yet graceful enough to be a gift. Your hands become dancers. The knuckles of your right hand press from within, coaxing the belly of the pot outward in a generous curve. Your left hand mirrors the movement on the outside, a gentle guide, supporting and refining the shape. The walls thin under your touch. You can feel the slightest variations in thickness, the memory of water and grit spinning beneath your fingertips. The sound changes to a soft, wet shushing as the pot grows. Suddenly, a memory surfaces, your mentor, his old, scarred hands guiding yours on this very wheel. "Feel the pot's spirit," he would murmur. "It will tell you what it wants to become." You close your eyes for a second, listening not with your ears, but with your skin. You feel a slight tremble in the wall, a place where it is dangerously thin. You ease the pressure instantly, coaxing it, reinforcing the delicate curve with a gentle touch, saving it from collapse. It is a near thing, a humbling reminder of the fragility of creation. With the body secured, you focus on the neck, collaring the clay inward, then flaring the lip just so. You smooth the rim with a scrap of wet leather until it is perfect. With a steady hand, you take a taut thread and slice the finished pot from the base of the clay. You lift it with reverence. It is heavy with water and possibility, vulnerable in its wet state, yet it holds the promise of its future strength. In the flickering light of the lamp, its form is simple, perfect, and alive. It is more than a pot. It is a prayer made of mud, waiting for the fire to give it a voice. You cradle the ghatam in your arms, its damp weight a fragile burden. Each step from the wheel to the drying racks is a meditation. The air in your workshop is still and cool, thick with the scent of wet earth and the lingering memory of the kiln's last heat. You place the pot gently on a wooden plank in the darkest corner of the shed, among its brethren in various states of drying. Here, away from the harsh sun and mischievous winds, it will slowly surrender its water to the air, a gradual, crucial exhalation. You run a finger along the row of pots, feeling the spectrum of transformation. The cold, slick skin of the newly thrown, the leathery coolness of those halfway there, and the chalky, room temperature feel of the bone dry, ready for the fire. Your Gautam has just begun its journey. A faint melody, carried on the night breeze, drifts into your quiet world. It's the sound of a sitar, punctuated by the soft rhythm of a dholak and a chorus of distant laughter. The village is alive, celebrating the coming union. Curiosity and a need to stretch your cramped muscles pulls you out from the cocoon of your workshop. You step into the moon-drenched night. The path to the village square is lit by flickering torches, casting long, dancing shadows that make the familiar banyan trees seem like watchful giants. The air tastes of jasmine and roasting spices. Near the headman's sprawling home, the activity is a whirlwind of color and light. Women are tracing intricate kolam patterns with rice flour on the smoothed earth thresholds, their bangles chiming with each practiced movement. Men are weaving marigolds into long, fragrant garlands to adorn the wedding canopy. You see her then, Amara, the headman's daughter. She is not yet in her bridal finery, but even in her simple garments she seems to glow, her face animated as she speaks with her friends. She is the reason for this joy, the person for whom your pot will be a silent witness to a new life. A small hand tugs on your dhoti. You look down to see Nalin, Amara's younger brother, his dark eyes wide with inquiry. "Is it done?" he whispers, his voice filled with a child's awe. "Is the magic pot finished?" You smile and kneel to his level. "It is shaped, little one, but its magic is not yet complete. It must rest and gather its strength, and then it must face the fire to find its true voice." Nalin looks from you towards his sister, then back again. "Will it sing for her?" "In its own way," you say, your gaze following his. "It will hold the cool water that soothes her thirst. It will stand in her new home as a memory of this village, of this night. Every time she touches it, she will feel the love of all of us." He seems to understand. He gives a solemn nod and runs back towards the light and laughter. You remain in the shadows for a moment longer, watching the celebration. You are not a guest or a reveler, not yet. You are the keeper of a promise, a shaper of clay and memory. Looking up at the vast star-strewn sky, you feel the profound connection between your solitary craft and the vibrant, beating heart of your community. The Gautam is more than a wedding gift. It is a vessel, destined to be filled not just with water, but with a life. You turn away from the light of the wedding, the sounds of laughter and music softening as you walk the familiar path back to your home and workshop. Here, the air smells not of jasmine, but of dry earth and wood smoke. The moon, higher now, casts a silver light on the squat, dome-shaped structure that is the heart of your craft, the kiln. It waits, a silent earthen womb, ready for its fiery work. There is no time for rest. The Gautam, now leather-hard, rests in the cool darkness of your hut. You lift it with a reverence that borders on prayer. Its surface is smooth under your palms, its weight a promise of substance. Carrying it to the kiln, you feel like a priest carrying a sacred offering to the altar. You carefully place it inside, nestled amongst other, simpler pots that will share its trial by fire. You arrange them with practiced hands, ensuring the heat will flow evenly, giving each piece its chance at transformation. You seal the kiln's opening with a mixture of clay and straw, leaving only the stoke holes and a small vent at the top. The work is slow, methodical. Your movements are a silent ritual passed down from your father and his father before him. For hours you feed the fire, starting with small twigs that crackle and spit, then graduating to larger logs. The fire is a living thing, hungry and wild, and you are its tender. You must understand its moods, its appetite, its breathing. The soft orange glow from the stokehold deepens to a fierce, pulsing red. The heat presses against your skin, and sweat traces paths through the clay dust on your brow. All other sounds fade into the background. The distant music of the wedding is a half-forgotten dream. Your world has shrunk to this circle of intense heat, the roar of the flame, and the silent prayer in your heart. You listen intently, your ear tuned to the subtle shifts in the fire's song. You watch the smoke rising from the vent, its color telling you stories of the temperature within. A single mistake, too much heat too quickly, a sudden draft of cool air, and the Gotham would shatter, its potential voice silenced before it could ever be heard. Through the long night, you keep your vigil. The stars wheel overhead. You think of Amara, who is likely now adorned in her bridal silks, her hands painted with henna, her heart full of hope and fear for her new life. This pot, you think, is experiencing its own rite of passage. It is leaving its soft, malleable form behind, embracing a new, permanent strength. It is being made ready. As dawn threatens to pale the eastern sky, the ordeal is over. The fire is starved and left to die. Now comes the most difficult part, the waiting. The kiln must cool slowly, naturally. To rush it would be to undo everything. You sit before the cooling mound of earth, exhaustion settling deep in your bones, and wait as the sun climbs into the sky. Finally, hours later, you can no longer feel the heat radiating from its walls. With trembling hands, you break the seal. A wave of warm, earthy air washes over you. You peer into the darkness, your heart pounding. There, glowing with a new, rich terracotta hue, the Gotham sits, whole and unblemished. You reach in and gently tap its side with your knuckle. A clear, deep, resonant note rings out in the morning quiet. It is the pot's first song. The magic is complete. You cradle the Gotham in your arms. It is still faintly warm, a living thing humming with the memory of the fire. Your exhaustion is a heavy cloak on your shoulders, but the pot's perfect, resonant weight is a source of strength. You carry it from the quiet solitude of your workspace toward the heart of the village, drawn by the rising sounds of music and laughter that spill through the morning air. The celebration is a riot of color and scent that overwhelms your senses, so recently attuned to only earth, water, and fire. Curtains of marigold and jasmine flowers hang from every doorway, their perfume mingling with the sharp, sweet smoke of sandalwood incense. Brightly colored silks flash in the sunlight as guests mill about, their voices a joyous chorus. You see Amara's father near the central pavilion, his face beaming, and you navigate the crowd to present your creation. He takes the Gotham with a reverence that makes your heart swell. "It is a masterpiece," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "A vessel worthy of this union." He leads you to where the musicians are seated on a rich carpet. Among them sits Amara, a vision in crimson and gold. Her eyes, lined with kohl, find yours, and she offers a small, grateful smile that makes the sleepless night entirely worthwhile. The head musician, an old man with wise eyes, takes the pot. He inspects its shape, its finish, and then, with a practiced hand, he begins to play. The Gotham's voice, your creation's voice, joins the melody of the sitar and the rhythmic beat of the tabla. It is not just a sound, it is a presence. A deep, earthy bass note that grounds the lighter, soaring instruments. It is the pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of the celebration. Children stop their games to listen, and a hush falls over the elders. The music flows through you, a current connecting the fire of the kiln to the fire of this new life beginning. You feel a profound sense of belonging, your craft woven into the very fabric of your community's joy. As the music swells, you become aware of a pair of eyes on you. A man stands apart from the main throng of guests, his clothes simple, but of a far richer dye and cut than any you have seen in the village. He is not celebrating, he is observing. When the song concludes to a wave of applause, he makes his way toward you, his steps measured and deliberate. "You are the potter," he states, his voice a low baritone that cuts through the surrounding chatter. It is not a question. He gestures toward the ghatam, now resting in the musician's lap. The firing is exceptional, no crazing, and the resonance is pure. But it is the clay itself that is most interesting. He leans closer, his gaze sharp and intelligent. "It is from the crimson riverbed, is it not? 10 leagues upstream, where the iron deposits run deep. Only that earth sings with such a voice." You can only nod, stunned that a stranger would know the secret of your clay source. "I have a proposition for a potter who can make the earth sing," he says, a faint smile touching his lips. "My master has need of such a skill in the capital city of Pataliputra." The wedding music seems to dim, the joyful chatter of your village fading to a distant murmur. Pataliputra. The name is a legend, a story told by traveling merchants, a place of impossible wealth and size. It is not a place for a simple potter. Yet this man, Varun, speaks of it as a destination, a place of work. His eyes hold no deceit, only a calm certainty that unsteadies you more than any boast would have. You find your voice, a dry whisper. "Who is your master? Why would he need a village potter?" Varun's faint smile returns. "My master is a minister to the emperor. He believes that the soul of the Mauryan Empire is not just in its armies, but in its art. He seeks those who can shape the very earth of our land into something that speaks. He needs more than a potter. He needs an artist. Your ghatam, it speaks." The decision feels both momentous and impossibly simple. To refuse is to remain here, tethered to the familiar rhythm of the seasons, the river, and the kiln. To accept is to step into the unknown, to become a story yourself. You look at your parents, laughing with the bride's family, their faces etched with the contentment you have always known. Then you look back at the stranger, at the open road in his eyes. You nod. "I will come." The departure is swift, almost surreal. Varun tells you to be ready by sunrise, and the rest of the night passes in a blur. You do not sleep. Instead, you walk to your workshop, the moonlight painting the clay-dusted floor silver. You touch your wheel, its surface worn smooth by your hands. You run a palm over a row of unfired pots, each a silent promise. You take nothing but a small bundle of clothes and your favorite carving tools, the ones your father made for you. As the first light of dawn spills over the horizon, you leave your village in Varun's sturdy, covered bullock cart. The familiar dirt path gives way to a wide, packed earth road teeming with life. For days, you travel through a world you never knew existed. You see long caravans laden with spices from the south and silk from the east. You pass fields of wheat that stretch to the horizon like a golden sea. At night, you camp under a blanket of stars so vast it makes you feel utterly insignificant. After what feels like a lifetime, the air changes.
It grows heavier, carrying the scent of wood smoke, cooking fires, and 1,000 scents you cannot name. A low, constant hum vibrates through the cart's wheels. Varun points ahead. There! You lean out, and your breath catches in your throat. Rising from the plains is not a city, but a fortress of civilization. A massive timber palisade, punctuated by hundreds of watchtowers, stretches as far as you can see. Before it lies a moat so wide it could be a river in its own right. Beyond the walls, the tops of towering wooden palaces and stone temples scrape at the sky. This is Pataliputra. It is an ocean of humanity, and you are but a single drop of water about to fall into it. The cart rumbles toward a colossal gate, and your heart pounds a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a drumbeat of terror and wild, electrifying hope. The cart lurches to a halt before the gate, a maw of timber and iron that seems to swallow the sky. The noise you heard from a distance is now a physical force, a wave of sound that crashes over you. Shouts in a dozen dialects, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the lowing of oxen, the sharp commands of soldiers. 2 guards, their spears tipped with polished bronze and their chests covered in leather armor, approach the cart. Their faces are stern, their eyes sweeping over you with a detached scrutiny that makes your skin prickle. You shrink back into the shadows of the cart, your carving tools feeling small and foolish in your bundle. Varun, however, is transformed. In your village, he was a welcome visitor, a man of stories and smiles. Here, he is all business. He speaks to the guards in a clipped, authoritative tone, presenting a small wooden tablet etched with a seal. One of the guards examines it, nods, and, with a grunt, waves you through. The great gate groans open just enough for your cart to pass, and then you are inside. If the world outside was a river, this is the ocean. The main thoroughfare is a river of people, flowing between towering wooden buildings 3, even 4 stories high. Balconies overflow with flowers and drying laundry. Banners in vibrant saffron and indigo snap in the breeze. The air is thick with the scent of jasmine incense from a nearby temple, sizzling spices from a food vendor's stall, and the sharp, earthy smell of the packed masses of people and animals. You see men in fine muslin robes discussing business, women adorned in gold jewelry haggling at a market stall, and a procession of saffron-robed monks walking silently through the chaos. Everything is motion, a dance of commerce and life on a scale you could never have imagined. Varun navigates the throng with an expert hand, guiding the bullocks down narrower but no less crowded side streets. "The merchant's quarter," he yells over the din. "My guild house is here, safer than an inn." Finally, the cart turns into a large walled courtyard. The noise of the city softens to a manageable hum. This is Varun's world. Servants rush to unload goods, and the air smells of pepper, cardamom, and clay. He leads you past storerooms stacked high with amphorae and bales of cotton, to a building at the back of the compound. "This will be your workshop," he says, pushing open a heavy door, "and your quarters are above." The space is twice the size of your workshop back home, with a larger, more complex-looking wheel and shelves already stocked with bags of unfamiliar, pale gray clay. A massive brick kiln stands in the corner like a silent god. He turns to you, his friendly smile returning, but now there is a new intensity in his eyes. "I did not bring you all this way just to sell your village water pots, my friend," he says. "I brought you for your hands, for the life you put into your work. A patron of mine, a very important man who advises the emperor's own council, saw one of your decorated jars I carried. He is building a new villa and requires a complete set of ceremonial vessels.
Not 5, not 10, 100. Each must be perfect. The clay is finer here, the firing hotter, the glazes more brilliant. The standards, they are the highest in the empire. He places a heavy purse of silver in your hand. This is for your start. Succeed, and you will never need to worry about money again. Fail? He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. He claps you on the shoulder and leaves you standing alone in the vast, intimidating workshop. The roar of Pataliputra is a distant sea. You look at the foreign wheel, the strange clay, and the purse of silver that feels colder and heavier than any stone. You are a drop of water, yes, but you have not just fallen into the ocean. You have been asked to calm a storm. The heavy door thuds shut, and you are encased in a sudden, profound silence. The silver in your hand is a cold anchor, pulling you down into a sea of doubt. For a long moment, you just stand there, a stranger in your own craft, surrounded by alien tools. The sheer scale of the task, 100 perfect vessels, feels like trying to count the stars. Where would you even begin? Your hands, however, have their own wisdom. They move before your mind does, drawn by the primal call of your trade. You walk to the stacked bags of clay, untie the knot on one, and plunge your hands in. The sensation is a shock. This is not the warm, gritty, iron-rich earth of your village. This clay is cool, smooth, and impossibly fine, like powdered silk. It coats your fingers in a pale gray glove. You bring a handful to your nose. It smells of the river, of deep, ancient silt and clean rain. It is a different language of earth, and you must learn its grammar from scratch. Days blur into a cycle of struggle. The new wheel is a beast. It's heavier, spun with a long pole instead of a simple stick, and it holds its momentum with a stubborn force. You spend hours just learning its rhythm, your leg aching from the unfamiliar motion. The first lumps of clay you throw on it are a disaster. The slick, soft material resists your touch, refusing to be centered. It wobbles, collapses into a formless heap, or spins out of control, splattering the walls and your face with gray slurry. Each failure is a small, sharp pain, a whisper of Varun's unfinished threat. You are a master potter, yet you feel like an apprentice again, clumsy and uncertain. Frustration boils in your gut. You sleep in the small room above the workshop, your dreams filled with lopsided pots and the mocking laughter of unseen patrons. You eat the food a servant leaves silently at your door, barely tasting it. Your world has shrunk to this dusty room, the stubborn wheel, and the uncooperative clay. After a week of failures, you decide to face the kiln. You manage to form a single, simple bowl, thick-walled and graceless, but whole. You let it dry, your heart a knot of anxiety, and prepare the massive brick kiln. An old wiry man with eyes as sharp as obsidian chips appears as you load the wood. He watches you for a long time, his face unreadable. He is the keeper of this kiln, you surmise. Finally he speaks, his voice raspy like dry leaves. "The river spirit is proud," he says, pointing a bony finger at your bowl. "This clay holds her memory. It doesn't like to be rushed. It must be dried slowly, in the dark, and it thirsts for a hotter fire than you are used to." He says nothing more, simply nods and shuffles away. Heeding his words, you build the fire higher, feeding the kiln's gaping mouth until the bricks glow with a terrifying white-hot intensity. When it cools, you unseal the door with trembling hands. Inside, nestled amongst the embers, is not a shattered ruin, but a single, transformed object. The heat has turned the pale clay into a thing of ringing stone-like hardness, the color of a dawn cloud. It's not one of the ceremonial vessels, not even close, but it is whole. It is perfect in its simple solidity. You pick up the bowl, it feels warm, alive. In its smooth, hard curve, you finally understand. You have not been asked to calm a storm. You have been asked to shape the river itself. Holding this small piece of your first victory, you feel the cold weight of the silver in your pocket lessen, replaced by the familiar, fiery warmth of purpose.
You carry the bowl back to the workshop, not as a trophy, but as a key. Its simple, perfect weight in your palms is a grounding force. The dust of the workshop no longer feels like a coat of failure. It feels like the necessary grit of creation. You don't command the wheel this time. You approach it as you would a wild animal you wish to befriend, with respect, with patience, with an open heart. You take a new lump of the pale, stubborn clay. As you center it, you close your eyes, remembering the kiln keeper's words, "The river spirit is proud." You don't force it into submission. Instead, you listen. Your touch is a question, not an order. Your fingers find the clay's own rhythm, the subtle pulse that beats within it, the memory of water and silt and time. And this time, it answers you. The walls rise between your hands, not with the grudging reluctance of before, but with a smooth, flowing grace. It is as if you are merely guiding a current that already knows where it wants to go.
The week blurs into a cycle of rhythmic work. You are no longer fighting the material, you are in dialogue with it. The old man visits occasionally, a silent shadow at the edge of your vision. He never offers praise, but one afternoon he pauses by a row of your freshly thrown pots, drying slowly in the cool darkness of the storeroom. He runs a single gnarled finger over the belly of a water jug. "See," he rasps, his voice barely a whisper, "it remembers." You look closer after he leaves. As the water evaporates from the clay, faint swirling patterns emerge on the surface, delicate and complex, like the lines left on a riverbank after a flood. Each piece is unique. One has the fine, cracked pattern of dried mud. Another has the gentle, concentric rings of a pebble dropped in still water. The clay isn't just a medium, it's a canvas that has already begun its own painting. You realize with a jolt that the intricate designs on the temple vessels you saw were not just masterful applications of glaze.
They were an amplification of what was already there, a collaboration between the artist and the river spirit itself. By the end of the second week, a dozen vessels stand in silent rows. They are unadorned, unglazed, their pale forms like ghosts of the final products. You have crafted the tall, slender-necked vases, the wide, generous offering bowls, the lidded urns meant to hold sacred oils. The forms are perfect, balanced, alive with a tension and grace you thought you had lost. But they are incomplete. You look at the faint, ghostly patterns whispering on their skin and understand the next and perhaps greatest challenge. Your task is not to decorate them, but to give voice to the echoes already trapped within the clay.
The days that follow are quieter, more intense. The rhythmic physicality of the wheel is replaced by a stillness that demands a different kind of strength. You sit before the row of pale, unfired pots, your tools laid out not on a heavy workbench, but on a simple reed mat. There are no knives for carving or brushes for painting. Instead, the old man has brought you shallow clay bowls filled with fine colored dusts, the deep red of ground ochre, the velvety black of powdered charcoal, the chalky white of crushed river shells, and a startling blue from a mineral you don't recognize. Your first attempt is hesitant. You choose an offering bowl, its surface marked with a delicate web-like pattern reminiscent of drying mud. Dipping your finger into the red ochre, you try to trace the lines. The result is clumsy, a thick, garish stripe that completely smothers the subtlety you meant to enhance. Frustration pricks at you. It feels like the same initial failure at the wheel. Your hand too heavy, your will too loud. You are imposing a design, not revealing one. You wipe it clean with a damp cloth, leaving a faint, frustrating stain. For 2 days you struggle. You try different powders, different tools, a feather, a frayed stalk of grass, but each attempt feels like a desecration. You are drawing on the pots, not with them. The old potter watches from his corner, saying nothing, his silence a heavier judgment than any words. On the 3rd morning, as the sun casts long, soft shadows into the workshop, a breeze stirs the dust on your mat. A fine puff of white powder from the crushed shells lifts into the air and settles gently onto a slender vase. For a moment, it coats the entire surface in a uniform layer. Then, instinctively, you lean forward and blow a soft, steady breath across it. The magic happens in an instant. The loose powder flies away, but the finest particles cling to the almost invisible grooves and textures left by the river's memory. The swirling pattern of a long-ago eddy, previously a mere ghost on the surface, is now etched in a delicate spectral white. It's not a line you drew, it's a truth you revealed. A slow understanding dawns. Your breath, not your hand, is the final tool. Your role is not to trace, but to unveil. You spend the rest of the week in a state of meditative focus. You learn to sift the pigments, to dust them with impossible lightness over the curved surfaces. You learn to modulate your breath, a sharp puff to clear a broad area, a gentle sigh to reveal the most delicate of textures. The wide offering bowls bloom with the deep reds of ancient riverbeds. The slender vases whisper with the blue-gray currents of the monsoon. The lidded urns are traced with the fine black lines of riverbank grasses fossilized in the clay. You are no longer an artist imposing your vision. You are a listener, a translator, giving voice to a song that was composed millennia ago, sung by water and silt, and held in silence until now. Your collection grows. A dozen vessels now stand on the drying racks, each a testament to your newfound communion with the clay. They are maps of forgotten currents, whispers of the river's soul made visible in dust and breath. The old potter, who has watched your transformation in silence, finally rises. He walks not to your mat, but to the pots themselves. His calloused fingers trace the patterns, not with the touch of an inspector, but with the reverence of a fellow listener. He doesn't offer praise. Instead, he gestures with his head towards the back of the workshop, to a hulking mound of clay and brick you had taken for a collapsed hut. The kiln. His look is an instruction, not a request. Following him, you carry your precious works one by one. The air grows warmer, thick with the scent of dry wood and baked earth. The kiln's mouth is a dark, low arch, an entrance into the earth's own heart. Loading it is another lesson in subtlety. The potter shows you how to stack the vessels, not touching, leaving space for the heat to move like a benevolent spirit among them. Each pot is an individual, but here they must become a community, supporting each other through the coming trial. When the last vase is placed, he hands you a flaming bundle of jute. The fire has a breath, too, he says, his first real lesson spoken aloud. It can be a gentle sigh or a devouring roar. You must learn its language now. Keep its breath steady until the moon is highest, then let it sleep. Your vigil begins as twilight bleeds across the sky. You feed the kiln's mouth with seasoned wood, watching the embers glow and dance. The heat pushes against you, a physical presence. Hours stretch into a timeless meditation. The kiln begins to hum, a low, thrumming sound that vibrates through the soles of your feet. It is the sound of transformation, of molecules rearranging, of water turning to spirit and leaving the clay forever. You fight the urge to peek, to know if your delicate patterns are being seared into permanence or obliterated into ash. You are assailed by doubt. Was the clay strong enough? Was the pigment pure? This is the ultimate act of letting go, of surrendering your creation to an elemental power you cannot fully control. You can only tend the threshold, feeding the fire, trusting the process. You realize this is the final, most difficult breath. Not your own, but the kiln's. You are merely its keeper. When the moon hangs directly overhead, a perfect silver coin, you seal the kiln's mouth with a large stone and clay mortar. The roaring subsides to a deep internal sigh. Your work is done. You wait for 2 days as the kiln slowly bleeds its heat into the cool earth. The silence is more nerve-wracking than the fire's roar. Finally, the potter nods. Together, you pry the stone from the opening. A wave of clean, dry heat washes over you. You reach into the darkness and pull out the first piece, a small bowl. It is warm to the touch and impossibly light. And the pattern? The red earth pigment is no longer a dusty layer, but a deep, vibrant terracotta fused into the very body of the pot. The swirls of the ancient eddy are now a permanent blush, a fiery ghost locked in stone. You pull out another, then another. Each one is a miracle, transformed and yet more itself than ever before. The fire did not erase the river's story, it made it eternal. The potter takes the finest bowl from your collection, holding it up to the sun. You did not just learn to shape clay, he says, his voice raspy from the kiln's smoke. You learned to listen to the land and give it form. A story this deep cannot stay by the river, it must travel. Take these to the market in the valley town, see what they are worth, not in coin, but in curiosity. He wraps your creations in soft straw and worn cloth, his gnarled hands moving with surprising gentleness. He leaves you with 3 of your best pieces, a shallow dish, a water jug, and the first small bowl, and a satchel of dried fruit for the journey. The path away from the river is a dusty artery, pulsed with the slow tread of ox carts and the chatter of pilgrims. The shade of the banyan trees gives way to open scrubland, the sun pressing down with a dry, insistent heat. The weight of the pottery on your back is a familiar comfort, a tangible reminder of your time by the water. You are no longer just a traveler, you are a creator, a keeper of a story made solid. The world seems different, sharper. You notice the patterns in the cracked earth, the swirl of dust devils in the distance, the way a vine curls around a stone. Everything is a script waiting to be read. After half a day's walk, the low hum of the settlement reaches you before you see it. The scent of cooking fires, livestock, and 1,000 lives lived in close proximity fills the air. The town is a chaotic symphony of color and sound. Merchants shout their wares under vibrant awnings, their tables piled high with shimmering silks, fragrant spices, and gleaming metalwork. Children chase dogs through the crowded lanes, and the air thrums with a dozen different dialects. You find a small space on a worn blanket near the potter's section, laying out your 3 humble pieces. They look plain, almost shy, next to the brightly glazed urns and painted figurines of your neighbors. For hours, people stream past. A woman haggles loudly for a set of lamps. A wealthy man inspects a bronze statue. Your terracotta, with its quiet, earthy patterns, draws few glances. Doubt, a familiar shadow, begins to creep back in. Was the potter wrong? Is this story only meant for the river? Then a figure stops. She is not a merchant or a soldier, but a woman dressed in simple, undyed robes, her hair bound with a single silver pin. Her eyes, dark and intelligent, are fixed not on the shape of your water jug, but on the pattern swirling across its belly. She doesn't touch it. She leans closer, her gaze tracing the terracotta blush as if reading a forgotten language. "Where did you find this script?" she asks, her voice low but clear, cutting through the market's din. You start to explain that it isn't script, but the memory of a river eddy, a pattern of the water. She holds up a hand, a gentle motion that silences you. "The river writes, and the wise can read. I have seen this mark before, but only in faded ink on a brittle palm leaf manuscript. It speaks of the primal eddy, the point from which the great river was born." She looks up from the jug, her intense gaze meeting yours. "This is more than a pot. It is a map. Tell me, storyteller, where does your map lead?" Her question hangs in the air, a quiet island in the roaring sea of the market. The haggling voices and clatter of wares seem to fade into a distant hum. Your own voice, when you find it, is rough and uncertain. It leads upstream," you manage, the words feeling small and inadequate. "Past the sharp bend where the storks nest, to a place where the current is born in a spiral. I don't know of a name for it. I just know the feel of it in the clay." Her expression doesn't change, but a deep understanding settles in her eyes. It's a look that says your simple, honest answer is more valuable than any scholar's theory. "The body remembers what the mind has forgotten," she says softly. "My name is Anala. I am a scribe from the Vihara of the unwritten word, just beyond the town's northern gate. For generations, we have collected and protected the knowledge of this land, in ink, on leaves, on stone. But some knowledge cannot be written down. It must be lived." She gestures to your water jug, then to the small bowl and the platter beside it. We have a fragment of a text that describes the primal eddy. It says the way to it is not one path, but three, intertwined like a braid. It speaks of a container for the water of life, a vessel for the first grain, and a platter for the sun's offering. It says the path will be revealed to one who does not seek it, one who speaks the river's tongue, not with their mouth, but with their hands. Her gaze is a weight, a question, and a conclusion all at once. You stare at your three humble pieces of pottery, a water jug, a grain bowl, a platter. The shapes you have made 1,000 times, suddenly imbued with a meaning that makes your head spin. It feels like a beautiful, impossible dream. "We are not wealthy," Anala continues, her voice pulling you from your reverie. "We cannot offer you silver for your wares, but we can offer you a place, a roof, a meal, and the company of those who would listen to your story. We believe the river has chosen you as its storyteller. We only ask that you help us read the tale it is telling." This is the moment. You look back at the market, at the endless stream of faces passing by, none of whom saw anything in your work but shaped mud. You could stay, sell your pots for a few coins to buy flour, and return to the familiar solitude of your hut by the river. Or you could follow this quiet woman, this keeper of unwritten words, into a world you cannot possibly imagine. The fear of the unknown is a cold knot in your stomach, but the fear of returning to a life where your story goes unheard is even colder. You nod, a single sharp movement. You don't trust your voice to speak. Carefully, you wrap your three pieces in your worn blanket, the clay cool and solid against your trembling fingers. You have not made a single sale. But as you stand and follow Anala away from the shouting merchants and into the quieter, shaded alleys, you feel richer than you ever have before.